Hey everyone, welcome back to the Armchair Authority podcast, episode 10. So today we're going to be talking in reverse order, where we'll be going over gaming first and then move over to politics, since this past week was the Democratic debates and we want to put more of a heavy emphasis on that. So we're going to go backwards and start with some gaming news. So Game Freak says that in their newest Pokemon game, Pokemon Sword and Shield, that they're going to have no national Pokédex, which means that only like select Pokemon are going to be included. Was it like 300, 400-ish?
Somewhere in that range.
Around that number, which personally I'm okay with, because I've never been one of those players to like import Pokemon or like try to complete the Pokédex. But Robert has a different.
Well, I already have all of them, so I want to be able to bring them forward.
But like, what's the point though? Like, does it give you satisfaction to bring them up?
It'll give me lack of satisfaction to no longer have them.
But like, you don't use them anyways, right? In battle.
No, I don't.
So this is like a collector's thing.
It's part that, yeah, and it's just part of general frustration with Game Freak, because they just do so many stupid things, so many frustrating things.
Do they still succeed?
Yeah, well, because they said it was partly about balancing, which makes no sense at all, because they don't care about that. And that, just since it takes so much time, which is true, but this is the exact type of problem where if you throw more people at it, it works. And it's just Game Freak is already undersized in that they have their other game called Village Town that they are also working on. So they're just completely split, and they need to be much bigger for how much money they're bringing in.
But I guess, like, you know how it is, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So it's like fine for now, right? It's like the opposite of Bethesda, where they like Bethesda makes all the bad design decisions and people like harp on them for it, but Game Freak is okay. They still make good sales.
Yeah, but that's just because that concept, I think.
The concept of like the games.
Yeah, of Pokemon. This is the company where one guy came in, looked at their code for a little bit, and had the size of it.
See, my optimistic thoughts is like I hope that they are like introducing crazy new mechanics and stuff that wouldn't be compatible with the older stuff. That'd be like really cool, and I think the trade-off would be worth it. But my more pessimistic thinking is that this is sort of typical. If you have like yearly releases, at some point you want to sort of take content away and then slowly reintroduce it back into the game, so you can pretend that you're making advancements every year.
Oh, no, that's not Game Freak's thing. Game Freak's thing is they just don't reintroduce it, because that way it would take away from its home game.
Well, do you think they're going to make a DLC where they're like, oh, Robert, for all you Pokemon fans who care about the National Pokédex, we'll sell you this DLC
I don't think they'll do that.
for the cheap price of $9.99?
But, where was it? Although, the new mechanic this time is Dynamaxing, which they did because it's easier to just make it bigger than to have a new model for every Mega Evolution.
I mean, that makes sense, though.
But Mega Evolutions were actually cool.
I feel like that's kind of debatable.
This mechanic is just, it gets big for 3 turns.
Well, I mean, like, okay, so I personally think that the blue Charizard Mega Evolution is kind of trash.
The most popular one.
I know it's the most popular, but it looks pretty trash, in my opinion. Like, he's basically turned into like a bird. Like a pterodactyl. Is basically what he turned into.
They made him actually look like a dragon, unlike his original form, which was just a flying lizard.
I can't say I was ever really into the like evolution. I think I still really think that they could do a lot more on just sort of making the Pokemon feel a lot more unique through whatever their special traits are and stuff like that.
Well, Don't you
But I
think
think
they've been doing that though with like the trash can Pokemon?
I think they have, like I think they have been like introducing more like unique like I don't know what they're called, traits, abilities. I'm not really sure, but I just think there needs to be more done because you can sort of play through the game and just ignore that stuff for the most part and just
I
get
don't
them
really
playing.
care about uniqueness. I just wanted there to be enough of them so that it actually feels like a world. Like, can you imagine a world where there's only 150 animals? And I
Well,
just
that's where
didn't
we
like.
started.
I think I
Yeah,
probably only see like maybe 3 or 4 different types of animals in my day-to-day life, so I don't know. I probably can. Like I see some squirrels, I see some birds, I see some like dogs and cats.
yeah, but you see lots of different types of birds.
Yeah, but they all just look like birds to me. So yeah, I just don't see very animals in my day-to-day life.
Yeah. I don't know, like even like disregarding that fact, right? Like, do you see 150 different types? Like, isn't that already a lot?
I mean, kind of, but if every dog was the same type of dog, and there was like, okay, Cano had
But we're not going to see like tigers and stuff like that here. That's
Cano
too
had like
exotic.
eight types of birds if you include the legendaries.
Hmm.
Uh,
Isn't that already quite a bit?
eh. What if there was only a couple of bugs, though?
But there's a lot of bugs.
Like there wasn't a single spider in Cano. That's just weird.
Is there even a spider nowadays?
Ariados.
Oh, but that was like Johto, so it's like
Yeah,
close enough.
and then the electric spider that evolves from Joltik.
You're going into territory beyond my knowledge base.
Keep in mind that this is sort of based off of the UK, right? Or at least
Oh,
Great
Oh,
yeah, that's
Britain.
true.
that was even their stupidest reason for why not all the Pokemon would be there. Because it's cold. Then why didn't they put in the ice types?
Did they
Great
not
Britain
put?
isn't really that cold, is it? I feel like
No,
I think it's just like dreary. I don't think it's like super cold.
I don't think it's really known for a lot of snow, right?
no. Scotland gets pretty cold, or at least the Scottish summers often they're like 60 to 70 degrees,
Mm.
something like that. But yeah, no, that's just what they said.
Mm. Okay. Well,
Yeah, we're done with that one.
I think we are. It's just like a neat little thing. I'm sure we'll have more like if we do talk about this again, like in November. Sure, we'll have more to say when the game actually comes out. I'm just hoping that the evolutions for the starters are fine, but aside from that, so I guess probably Robert should introduce this other one, or is this kind of just a FYI thing with Breath of the Wild?
Oh, just yeah. So there was a cool glitch out there where uh, they went under the water and you could see all the detail they put into the reef. And so just if you get the chance, look into that because some companies, Game Freak, could learn from that.
Okay, but can you actually like see that without the glitch though? Like,
Not really, because Breath of the Wild didn't have diving.
but then does that matter though that they like decorated the reef
Well,
area?
yes and no. It's often attention to detail is wasteful if you're not getting your other stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a sign that you're doing things well often.
Mm. All right. So I think that this was pretty short for gaming since E3 happened some time ago, and now it's kind of been slower than usual.
We can
So
talk
let's go
about
ahead
Steam
and
sales.
the Steam sales. All
Yeah.
right. What's your number one game on the Steam sales that you would want right now?
Yeah, none of the sales have actually caught my eye, so I don't know. Because the EU ruined Steam sales several years ago. Their whole required return policy.
Mm.
Well, if I didn't already have that bundle of Borderlands, probably that.
Well, but you already have that already, so that doesn't really count. Because like that's what the meme is about, right? Like every time Steam sales happen, everyone says, "Oh, I already have that game. I already
Yeah.
have that game."
Yeah, maybe The Witcher,
Okay.
and then
Edward? Or
Um,
sorry, go ahead.
Ultimate Chicken Horses on my front page, which those are the only ones that interested me.
Mm.
I think in
Ultimate
fact,
Chicken Horse is pretty cool though, of a party game.
okay, Edward.
Okay. I'm kind of interested in Hitman too, especially because it sort of has like the episodic kind of feel to it, where you just sort of have these missions that you can break out every once in a while. I really like the other Hitman game. At some
Was
point, I want
Hitman
to play
the
Devil
one?
May Cry 5. Oh, what?
Was Hitman the one that had like the Epic exclusive, or was that something else?
I don't know. I don't think Hitman had an Epic exclusive, but I'm not sure.
All
It's
right.
on Steam now, at least.
I'm probably thinking of something else then.
Return of the Obra Dinn, I've heard good things about. Some like indie game. That's about it. I have most of the games that are on sale, I think, that are good.
Why Devil May Cry though?
It's the combat looks pretty cool, I think. I just sort of like the tone of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Very like high energy.
Mm-hmm.
It has this really like big league atmosphere to it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I see. I'm gonna use a cop-out answer and say I have nothing in the Steam sale that interests me right now.
Oh, okay. Nice.
because I'm a cheapskate, so I wait until the prices drop a lot before I pick it up, and none of them have dropped to an acceptable level yet.
Okay.
So I'm
Okay,
just
for a
gonna-
curveball question, do any of you have a most like anticipated game from E3?
Fire Emblem.
I don't even remember. Did they show the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer there?
Yes,
I think
did.
so. Yeah.
And that.
I really liked the plane simulator they showed. That looks cool.
Of course.
It looks good. They have like some kind of crazy thing going on. It sounds like we're doing some kind of like streaming from like actual like Earth stuff. I don't know. I don't know how it works, but the little bit of footage they showed, it looked really good.
Mm. Is it because well, I'm not gonna go down that train of thought,
Okay.
but is it
Yeah.
just because it looks like hyper realistic? I guess then, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of content. They have like their own model world. I don't think it's like 1-to-1 accurate, but it's like
Mm.
pretty close. Maybe it is 1-to-1 accurate. Not as bad, but
I see. Yeah, that seems pretty interesting then. I wonder how much time you'll spend in it.
I probably won't even buy it, but I'll look at other people play it.
Yeah. All right. So I think with that, that should wrap up our gaming section of the discussion for today. Who wants to introduce this next one? With Iran and all the stuff that's been going on over there. No takers?
No.
Iran allegedly attacked, put a mine on some oil tankers. The U.S. at least accused them and provided a little bit of evidence. Other countries were skeptical, but I think a few countries eventually got on our side. I think Germany eventually said that there was like some evidence I think Australia sort of backed us up. I think the UK might have backed us up a bit as well. Um, but like, there's still like a lot of confusion surrounding that incident. And then like a little bit later, there was like a drone that we were flying around. It was a surveillance drone. It wasn't like some kind of stealthy spy drone or some
This
kind of
was
attack
really slow.
drone.
Yeah.
It was just sort of a pretty like obvious like surveillance drone that we claimed was flying in international waters, and they said that it invaded their personal space, so they shot it down.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where we are.
Part of that, yeah, is that Iran, their claims on the borders is bigger than what everyone else recognizes. But
I don't think that was relevant in this issue because it is true that they claim more than most other countries, but they claimed that they released a little map, and according to their map, the drone was like even closer, like to it goes like within like the more international agreed space.
ah,
But of course, we released our own map that showed otherwise, so I don't know.
yeah. But so, yeah, this is why we do this with drones and not people.
Yeah.
So I guess like what would how would this change our relationship with them? Do you think? I mean, obviously it like heightens the tensions, but like, do you see any major things happening because of this?
I think a lot of this stuff can just be used as like, um, I think the United States strategy right now is to isolate Iran as much as possible from the rest of the world through sanctions and also sort of hurting their credibility. Um, and if we can do that, Iran is going to eventually buckle. Like they'll have to. Their economy is already being hit pretty hard through all of our sanctions. Like they're going through some tough times. I guess the question is, what is like Trump planning? Does he actually want to like push them into having like a revolution where we'll get like a regime change and completely destabilize the region, or is he just trying to push them to go to the negotiations table so we can sort of renegotiate a new nuclear agreement? But maybe this time it'll be like a bit better for our goals. I'm not really sure what the plan is there.
Probably the latter one is more preferred, right? Versus
I would definitely prefer the latter one. Yeah, I wouldn't want to destabilize Iran because you're gonna start creating massive issues in that region. Yeah.
yeah.
What else is
Not
new?
Yeah, not that we haven't created massive issues in that region already, right?
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah. But this would be pretty disastrous. Almost. So this is like a complete conspiracy theory, but with the rise of immigration, especially immigration originating from Middle Eastern countries, we've seen like a big rise in like nationalist groups, right? So if like we go in, our nationalist leader goes in, destabilizes Iran, forcing people to immigrate from Iran to like the European countries. That's gonna like push even more nationalist movements. Think about it. It's almost like look
I see.
into it.
I mean, that could happen, you know.
Yeah.
It's a very like, as much of a as you say it's a conspiracy theory. I can see that happening. But yeah, hopefully that thing, I don't know, like it gets resolved relatively soon, because it's hard to predict what the current administration will do at all. So it's like no like quantitative data that we could use or like precedent.
Yeah.
But so with the international topic out of the way, let's go back to the good old U.S. of A. So recently, a judge blocked Trump's use of military funds to build the border wall. There was like 2 point something billion.
2.5 billion for anti-drug stuff, I think.
Was it? I think was this portion in like California, Arizona, Texas?
It said high priority or something like that.
Okay, so it's just wherever it needs to happen, basically.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some regions along the border that are easier to cross than others, and maybe those regions have higher traffic.
California, Arizona, and New Mexico. Yeah, of course. Yeah, like say from to San Diego from Tijuana, there used to be a lot of people there. But then just doing that causes people to go through the desert, and then people die, and
But I mean, like, on what grounds did they say to block the use of it? Like, what were what was their reasoning
Uh,
behind that? Was it just like, oh, misallocation of resources, or was it saying that like, oh, that the border wall currently isn't like the most pressing matter that we have to like allocate money to? So they're like, no, we can't actually do that, or is there some other like
the
train of thought behind it?
lawsuits contend that the money transfer was unlawful and that building the wall would pose environmental threats.
Environmental threats
Yeah.
in the desert?
There's still animals out there, and then, like, I know that if you're to build the wall in the middle of a river, that would go really poorly for the animals because all of a sudden they're split in two.
Well, yeah. I guess it depends on like where they put it,
Yeah.
and I guess it's not as extreme as a river though, right? Because
Yeah, but even the desert's not outside the environment.
yes. Okay, so that's the reasoning behind that particular thing. Okay, so I guess then building the border wall is pretty much a pipe dream, right? For at least the people who want them, because like obviously it wasn't gonna happen,
Yeah.
but I guess this act more solidifies that fact
Hmm.
than anything else.
I think it's worth noting that really the best way to stop immigration is to, stop like interfering with other countries. Like the United States has like done a lot of interfering with South American countries, and we've contributed a lot to destabilizing that's like the Central and South American places. And maybe if we hadn't done that, we wouldn't have people moving north.
That still wouldn't stop immigration. The best way to stop immigration is to make here be worse than there.
Well, I mean, yeah, obviously that would stop immigration, but no, I mean, I think that helping, or not, maybe we don't even need to help, but stop like screwing over the countries south of us would certainly like slow things down.
I mean, I don't think stopping immigration totally is like a good thing, anyways. So just like limiting it, or
Yeah.
like limiting the need for it to be like a thing, right? Because if like the other places are still fine, like America likes to play like Big Brother of the world. That we love that role. So kind of just like,
But like you have to be incredibly desperate to make the trek like 1,000 or so miles, knowing that you're probably going to be put in essentially a concentration camp.
yeah,
Um, so I mean, it's obviously not like they're not sitting around thinking, dude, this is my first choice of what I'm gonna do. Things don't like work out here. Like like they're pretty desperate. And if they were a little bit less desperate, I think most of them ended up just staying.
no, that makes complete sense. Yeah, because they did it mostly by foot, right? They didn't have any.
Yeah,
They didn't
foot and wagons and stuff.
Mhm. And they would have been crossing like through the tropics, so that's gonna be.
It's a dangerous
worse.
trip. They go through a lot of dangerous places up north.
Yeah. Of like ways we could fix or like help out this immigration thing, but it's a variety of different um, things contributing to it.
Hmm.
So yeah. But moving on to another court-related topic, gerrymandering in the Supreme Court. So Edward, you want to take that away?
So recently, the Supreme Court released their decision on various things, and the one we're going to talk about is they decided that they don't really want to talk about gerrymandering, and they want to leave it to state courts and stuff like that. I want to leave it to the states to decide, and I think that this sort of creates a big issue because you're relying on elected officials to work against their best interest, and I don't think that's like not gonna happen. I don't think you can rely on that. So, yeah.
So I guess in terms of fixing it then, Robert, do you think that we should just get rid of the divisions and then just like do a statewide vote and then let's say like 60% was like Republican and 40% was Democrat, then based on the population we would have a distribution of representatives that fit that vote, would that be a better solution in your eyes?
Possibly, yeah. So I don't think people would like if you got rid of the reps, but if you use the German system where after all the reps have been elected, you add new people to match the proportion, then that would, yeah. There's probably still a way that gerrymandering would happen with that, but I think that would remove much of it. But then that would increase the number of politicians, and people would be upset by that too.
Well, yeah, but we got to at least still do something, right? Because gerrymandering is basically voter fraud, like plain and simple, right?
Yeah.
But voter fraud induced by the government.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I should try to figure out a way to turn it to a popular vote. Do away with the whole electoral college thing. I don't know. I mean, that doesn't really solve the issue with, like, I guess, representatives, but...
Yeah, well, this isn't an electoral college thing so much as just people want local reps.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Because the reps are, in theory, supposed to represent the interests of their constituents and not their party.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
Just looking at some of these, like I'm looking through some of the most like crazily gerrymandered sections. Like some states, it is like actually crazy. Like some artists like designed all these.
Did you get to the earmuffs yet?
No, I haven't gotten to the earmuffs yet. I'm scrolling through like 20 of them, and well, I mean, a lot of it, understandably, is in like the southern states where.
And sometimes they're not even like connected.
Well, they have to be connected. That's why they look so stupid sometimes.
Okay, there's just really like thin lines connecting them.
Yeah.
Oh, Illinois has one.
Yeah, the earmuffs.
Is that the earmuffs?
The one in Chicago where they have a Hispanic area in the north and a Hispanic area in the south. So to make sure they get a rep, they had to connect them. But to do that, you have to go many miles to the west of basically getting no people and then back to the east.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just surprised that Illinois is there, I guess.
Yeah, this is a so-called positive gerrymandering.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
yeah,
this
like
or something.
Hmm?
Yeah, I think the court actually ordered them to do this one, but
I see.
It's so hard to like try to figure out. Like you need to like, create sort of like guidelines on detecting for like sort of almost like empirically what a gerrymandered district is, and like the guidelines of what makes like a good district, right? Like it's kind of tricky. I don't know.
have you ever played the gerrymandering game?
No.
There's a game where you basically need a gerrymandered districts. It teaches you about it.
Mm. Is that on the Steam sale?
It's a free game.
Oh, it's a free game.
Yeah, maybe I'll look more into how other countries handle this issue, because there's no way that we have like the best method.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, so I feel like I remember discussing this topic before, right, on the podcast? Or is that just other discussions that we had outside?
I feel like we have discussed this before. Yeah.
It's been so long ago, but yeah. That's just an unfortunate truth, unfortunate reality of, of the US right now. Hopefully that gets resolved eventually. I can't see it staying for until 50 years in the future. I feel like people are going to tackle it relatively soon.
Well, my understanding is that some representatives, when they're like running for their election or whatever, they purposely advertise the fact that they're going to gerrymander because it doesn't seem like anybody can stop them, So they'll like blatantly say, yeah, if you vote me in, I'll write the districts in a way that will like help us.
No, they're being so blatant about it. Well, after finishing the Supreme Court gerrymandering stuff, we've come to the meat and potatoes of this whole podcast, Democratic debates. So this year, this month, the Democratic debates were split into two separate debates, one on Wednesday, one on Thursday, each with 10 candidates. The first one consisted of basically like the main players of that one were Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, and who would you say, like, if you were to finish out that top three, who would the other be?
For the first night,
Yeah, for the first night.
I would say Julian Castro.
Robert, do you have a opinion on this?
I didn't follow the first night very much.
Okay, so you followed the second night though, right?
A bit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the first night, all I heard about was the Spanish speaking.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll do a good coverage then, because Edward watched both of them, and then I've watched like majority of the first one, and then you know more about the second one. So
I
what
know
was good?
some about the second, but
Well, you know more than I have. I watched like some clips. I haven't watched nearly as much
Well,
as
if
I
you're
intended to.
watching that clip, you know about as much as I do now.
Okay. Well, so going into the second day though, Thursday, that was the one that I think most people were more excited about, just because of the strength of the candidates that were on there, like Harris, Biden, Bernie. Am I missing anyone that was like one of the top contenders?
Oh, you got the top ones, but
I think I think the
Okay.
top ones going into it. Yeah, those are the top ones.
which one was Beto in the first one?
The first
Yeah.
one.
Yep.
So speaking of him, let's go ahead and start with Wednesday. And I haven't really thought about how we're gonna structure this, so I'm just gonna like ask you questions and then probably ask for like a rating of performance, I guess, to Edward, since he.
The
See,
one
like,
that
watched it.
actually watched it.
Yeah, the only. Well, I mean, I watched it too. Okay, like
Okay.
I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched like an hour and a half, so that's like the majority of it.
Mm.
But so first off, let's go with the number one question on my mind is the Spanish speaking portions done by O'Rourke and Booker.
And Castro.
Well, I mean, okay, I'm gonna give Castro like a pass, right? Because he's
Okay.
actually Hispanic.
So is Beto.
I mean, like, like is he like 1/8 or is he? How much Hispanic is he? And is it
He's
like,
Hispanic. He's Hispanic the same way Warren is Native American.
so, like, did he grow up with Spanish? Like, did he like, or did he just like throw out some Spanish for this particular thing? Like,
There's being from El Paso, he's going to have at least some experience with Spanish.
but I mean, like, at a certain point, it becomes like he's like a poser, right?
Yeah, but
Like, I'm saying that there's probably more effective ways to like get the Hispanic community on his side than speaking in Spanish.
Mhm.
I'm just saying that seemed like so out of place. Like he was just like talking English and then he would like go into Spanish and then it's like I don't know, like that jump was just so unnatural, and
It was very natural. I was laughing pretty hard at that. Although I will say that I don't think there's anything like like necessarily. It was kind of like cringy, but I wouldn't say there's anything like wrong with it because I feel like the point of these debates essentially is to try to pander to people, right? It was just sort of like a weird like cringy moment. I think I don't know.
maybe that's like I don't know. Maybe it's because it's not like I guess like directly related to me that I don't. Because I'm not Latino, so it's like maybe if I was, then like his message would be stronger to me.
Yeah, I don't know what the response is from Hispanic voters. I'm not sure if they really had a reaction. It might have just been sort of like a curiosity. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
What I really want to know is, I wonder if Booker was prepared to was preparing to speak Spanish, or if it was like off the cuff, like, oh shit, this guy's speaking Spanish, I have to speak Spanish too.
Mhm.
Like, that's what I want to know. Because
Mhm.
Booker is from New York, right? What's his experience with Spanish?
I don't know. I'm looking. Can you look up Booker's experience with Spanish? Because I'm looking up O'Rourke Speedos because it seems like he's Irish, and that his like first
Well,
name Beto was given as a nickname from his father for Robert.
Yeah, and because Berto apparent things that in Berto apparently get done as Beto in Spanish.
Mm. So I feel like that might just be because where they're living, right? Just like the they've been influenced by like the Hispanic community around them, and then he would just like his parents and grandparents would naturally pick up on, you know.
Well, Marco Rubio said that Cory Booker's Spanish sounded more like Portuguese.
Um, they're similar enough, right? I think that I've heard that if you're like Portuguese or you're like Spanish, you could understand each other if you spoke
Yeah,
slowly enough.
yeah, usually mutually intelligible. They were the same-ish some hundreds of years ago.
Mhm.
Relatively recent split.
now my understanding of Julian Castro is that he isn't actually fluent in Spanish. Like, he can roughly speak it, but he's not like fluent either. So
No, it's not. He's a okay.
yeah.
It so oh, he's from San Antonio. Okay.
um,
Who is?
Castro.
Julian Castro.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that was a pretty funny moment. Good
Okay.
stuff.
So we have people pandering to the Hispanic community. I mean, technically though, I guess for Castro it's like more fine, I think, right?
I think for me it feels more fine only because his overall response to the immigration questions I thought were like really good compared to the other candidates. It seems like he's put a lot more thought into it, so it feels like less like pandering if he can actually speak really well on the issue.
Wait,
So
Beto started speaking Spanish because he was asked if he would support a 70% top tax, and he didn't want to answer that.
Did he do that? I don't even
This
remember
is the
what.
thing.
I
I
assumed it
feel
was because of the immigration question, but I don't remember exactly what happened.
I feel like we
Looks
should
like he
take
mixed
note.
up some masculine and feminine words.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's understandable since he's not like a fluent Spanish speaker, or maybe like combination of that and nerves. But I think for the next debate though, we should probably take some notes
Yeah, for sure. I
in
think
terms of
everyone
like
should.
what were like the important things, and then we could just like discuss them here. So, what exactly about immigration was Castro proposing? Do you remember?
He was very against the like camps that we have set up against the border, saying that I mean, I didn't take notes, so I don't remember exactly what he was saying, but I think he was just speaking on like we need to like figure things out there and do something.
Mhm.
If only I took notes, I would remember. But at the time, I remember feeling like he was the best speak. He had the best like ideas on it or something.
Mhm. Then I guess the follow up question to that is some of these candidates dodged a lot of questions, which is, I guess, like customary at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like out of the candidates, at least for the part that I watched, Elizabeth Warren dodged like the least amount of questions.
Yeah, Warren has always been very policy focused to the point where she sort of developed a reputation as being like a bit of a nerd for a politician. She always comes at it from like um, very like policy focused things, and she sort of has things written very like she has very like comprehensive notes or whatever written about her beliefs on things, and yeah, so I don't think she really has to do a whole lot of dodging. I think she's pretty well prepared.
Mhm. So I guess a question for Robert now is, do you think that that people should try to be more prepared and like actually have definitive answers? Because like, what's the point of having these debates if you're just gonna dodge the question anyways, right? Like, why are you even there?
Yeah, I don't. I've never really felt debates were worth it. Because just because you have what looks like the best answer doesn't mean it is the best answer. Since they're not answering questions anyway.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes the answers that they give, they don't actually do, when they go into office, right? So it's kind of like I will promise you all these things, but they're not held accountable.
There's no way to.
Well, shouldn't there be some system in place though that would actually like do something, like even if not like accomplish it, but to say like can't like make empty campaign promises, right? Because that seems pretty unethical. Which I know it's politics and whatever, but
yeah, oh yeah, like who's president?
Well, I guess, know, but like, yeah.
I mean, I guess to Trump's credit, he actually did try to do pretty much everything he ran on.
He did.
Yeah, and just if you get stopped, well, sometimes it's not your fault.
But I think like as long as like they do everything in their power, I think that's like good enough, right? And if they get stopped anyways, because like as the candidate, you're just one person, and if you get blocked by like every other thing, then like no one can fault you for like not trying to uphold your campaign promise.
It wasn't something about Obama is what's popping into my mind now, but
Guantanamo Bay?
I don't know. That people still did fault him even after he was blocked.
So now this is like a question I have for both of you. What do you think about them, the candidates, giving their own personal backstory in response to like every single question, pretty much? Like, do you think that enhances like the connection between the candidate and the people, or is it just kind of some fluff used to like avoid questions yet again?
Some of both.
Which side does it lean more towards then?
I would say more fluff, but they're probably trying to say, "Oh, I understand this. This is why you should listen to me." Blah blah blah.
So the point of telling these stories obviously isn't to like provide you like factual information. It's just it's to be persuasive, right? It's like the difference between trying to speak persuasively and trying to find out like what's true. And I think in the purpose of these debates, like trying to just be persuasive is obviously like I think is like really important. But I think that a lot of these stories that these people were telling on the first night, I was out there telling some like pretty like like sort of boring like bad stories that I don't think really were very effective. Mm-hmm. The one exception, I think Elizabeth Warren told like a really good one, how she got like a letter from like a little boy and a little girl like asking for, I don't know, I think it was related to like healthcare or something. I don't remember the exact story, but I remember it was good. It was a good anecdote. So
I mean, it stood out enough for you to remember it still, right? Like,
well, I like sort of remember it.
Well, I mean, like the other ones, you kind of like already forgotten what they were, like for the most part, and then like at least this one like stuck with you for like at least a little bit.
Yeah, but so yeah, I just have to give more props to Warren for actually telling like a good like anecdote.
So, I guess before we move on to Thursday, are there any other like specifics regarding Wednesday's section that you want to talk about? I know afterwards we'll like talk about our winners for both days.
Okay. Yeah. There's nothing else that I have to say.
Okay. Well, why don't we just go into that then? Like into the winners for Wednesday. I'm biased. I'm biased, of course. So I think Elizabeth Warren won overall on Wednesday's debate. The second person that I thought kind of won, but he's kind of like one of the lesser candidates, was the governor from Washington. I think his performance was pretty well done. So I would give him second place. And then for third, I think I would give Castro third. Because those were the ones that really stood out to me in like terms of like debates and like how they were able to answer policy questions. I think that's like one of the most important things for me. Like, because this is basically like politicians going in. It's like not having your homework done, right, before like the actual thing. So for the politicians that can't answer some of the questions that they were like most of the questions that they were asked, like I found that unacceptable. So I think for these three in particular, they answered like a good majority of the questions posed to them and had like, you know, good policies going forward.
Yeah. Weirdly enough, I don't actually. I can't even remember the person from Washington. I think I vaguely remember, but not like enough. Actually, yeah, I think I remember sort of being like okay with them, but they didn't like stand out too much. The people I thought did the best for Wednesday, Warren, obviously. I think most people, I think everyone would agree that she ran away with it. I would actually put Booker second.
Even with the Spanish stuff?
Even with the Spanish stuff, I think Booker is sort of like, if this was like D&D, he would. I feel like I would describe him as being sort of like a happy warrior. Like he's sort of upbeat, he's high energy, and you get the impression that he's gonna like fight for like things, you know. Like I think he's very charismatic. Yeah, so I think he had a really good showing, especially because he was sort of falling behind in the polls, and I think he sort of stood out on Wednesday. I think Castro probably comes in third. I didn't know anything about him, but I think he sort of displayed more knowledge on the border issues than anybody else. I think he he's written legislation regarding how to solve like the immigration issue. So I guess that makes sense. He would know more about it. If I had to pick like a fourth, I think De Blasio, the mayor from New York. In the first half of the debate, I really liked that he would sort of like combat with other people. He would like interrupt them and like try to debate them on stuff. I thought that was like pretty good, but I think he lost steam as the debate went on. So moving on to I think who did like the worst on Wednesday, because I feel like this also deserves special credit.
Vito?
Vito, weirdly enough, he did poorly, but I wouldn't even. I guess compared to where he was in the polls, he probably did the worst because I think he was pretty high. I thought Klobuchar came across as really unlikable. I don't know, Delaney completely. I didn't like him at all. But yeah.
Was that the only main highlight of the like the bad ones? Was he the only one that you singled out?
Yeah, I mean, it's like three people, right? How many other people are there aside from the ones that did well?
Well, who did you single out? I thought you said one name.
Amy Klobuchar, Delaney, and I guess Beto.
All right. So let's move on to Thursdays, which a lot of people said that this was the more exciting one because there's a lot more heavy hitters here with Biden, Harris, and Sanders. I guess you could. This is a biased opinion, obviously, as well, but since people I know talk about Yang more than any of the other ones, I know of Yang, so I don't know how popular he is exactly, but from my perspective, he would be 4 because no one that I know talked about any of the other candidates.
Yeah, I didn't. I wasn't too familiar with a lot of the other ones.
So, I think this is a pretty interesting, like, statistic here. So the New York Times has like ratings on, or like, I guess like data on how long each topic was covered and how long each person talked during the debates. So do you want to guess who's number 1 for this particular day?
I think I've already seen these. I don't remember.
Well, yeah, you've seen them, but you
though.
forgot. So now I'm just presenting them, and you can just imagine that they're new.
Okay, I feel like Kamala Harris is probably number 1.
Robert?
I I don't know. It could always be the case that Biden was waffling for a while. I don't know.
True.
You gotta pick one, dude. You can't just.
I'll go with him.
Okay. You're right. Biden with 13 minutes and 19 seconds. Harris was number 2 with 12
I bet
minutes.
it was number 3, Buttigieg, or whatever his name is.
He was 11
Okay.
minutes 21. Sanders is 4th with 10:58.
Yep.
And guess who's last? We'll start off with the controversy first. With Yang being at the bottom
So the
for 2
controversy.
minutes and 58 seconds.
Yeah, he was asked 2 questions. Like he was like singled out for 2 questions during the entire 2-hour debate, and then of course he like jumped in like I think like maybe 1 or 2 more times when they were going through and asking everybody a question. So like Andrew Yang, he like wrote some stuff on Twitter first, like saying that he wants to like do better next time and stuff, and then he also said that his mic wasn't working, so which made it like difficult for him to know when he should be like trying to jump in and when he shouldn't be jumping in. I think I wonder. One thing I noticed is I've seen his town hall appearances where it's just like him and someone asking him questions, and I thought he did really well in that setting. But when he has to sort of interact with other people, I wonder if he is gonna like suffer there. But like we don't know because obviously he was sort of gimped this time around.
And it looks like the graph is saying that he spoke about economy and foreign policy, but I distinctly remember him saying that like climate change, right? When they asked like the one-word answers.
He tied climate change into his UBI, I think. I forgot what he was trying to say, but somehow he was mentioning how like giving like people UBI would stimulate the economy and like I don't know push like growth into green technology or something. I don't know. I've forgotten what he was going for there. The thing is, like, I think he was sort of aware that he was being pushed to the bottom. So whenever he was given a chance to speak, he would like very like rapid fire, like push out all of the information he possibly could without like much care for making the message a little bit more easier to understand. I think. Because he would like speak very fast whenever he was given his like precious seconds to actually talk.
So, looking at the Wednesday one for the time spoken, the bottom candidate spoke for 5 minutes and 5 seconds, which was 1 minute away from the next highest, versus Yang, where he's like almost 2 minutes off from the next guy. And the spread is way more evenly distributed in Wednesday than versus on Thursday. Which makes sense because it's kind of top heavy with like Biden, Harris, and Sanders.
No, weirdly enough, I think I'll have to go against the grain and say that I think I kind of enjoyed the first debate more than the second one. But, yeah.
So, going into more of the specifics of the debate, I guess let's start off with that because this is one of the few things I actually know. Is the Harris and Biden situation.
Mm-hmm.
So it was. I think it would be more eloquently put if you took over that particular section, Edward, because.
Back in the day, Biden opposed like federal mandated busing, and it's sort of been a controversy over the last 2 weeks because he sort of spoke fondly of other people and he worked with on sort of like these issues. People that, but like Booker and Kamala Harris like wanted like some kind of apology from Biden. I think Kamala wanted one. Maybe it was just Booker that wanted an apology. And Biden turned around and said, "No, I actually want an apology from Booker." But that was a good one. But anyways, it sort of came to a head on this debate stage when Harris brought up this issue. I think it was one of the moderators that originally brought up this controversy. Biden gave a response, and then Harris sort of butted in, and she said that like this issue is like personal to her, and she sort of launched into the story how there was like a little girl that was like the second sort of people to be like bust, and then she's like, oh, that little girl was me, and like this, she continues talking about this issue, and like the entire time Biden's sort of like looking at the floor with like a really like sort of like sad look on his face, and you see like Harris like looking right at him while she's saying this, and it was pretty disastrous, I think, for Biden. The optics on this were terrible.
Yeah.
But didn't you say initially that he opposed busing? Was that, or did I mishear that?
Yeah, if I remember right, he initially opposed. Well, he was initially for busing. Then when his constituents say, "Hey, we hate this," then he flipped on it.
He opposed federal mandated busing, I think, with
Yeah.
his idea that at the time busing was unpopular, even among black people, busing was considered unpopular. But it's also the data. I've heard people sort of criticize the polling for that as well, so I don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um,
Then you have there's a lot of legitimate reasons to be against it, but the one he went with was states' rights.
yeah, which is really bad because states' rights are usually the very last sort of give in to like more rights for black people. They're usually like dragging their feet on that really bad. So I like when given the chance to explain his actions, he completely messed that one up. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you could go with just how bad it is for young children to be on buses for like 2 hours a day, or just how much more expensive it is for buses to go both ways.
Yeah, there's so many ways you could have diffused the situation, but he didn't like come up with anything. So and I think even the fact that he couldn't come up with anything sort of reflects badly on him.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, and then apparently a lot of these schools where they were being bused to, they were still just self-segregating in there,
Mm.
and it's just yeah. So yeah, but busing was what they went with at the time, but yeah.
I'd imagine that his rating will drop after this pretty drastically, I would assume.
Um, I don't know. I think it's too early to tell for sure, but it really sort of depends on how this issue is covered and where it goes forward from here. Because I don't think these debates necessarily have a huge impact on the polling. Weirdly enough, um, so yeah, we'll have to see.
Mm-hmm.
I think for sure Biden demonstrated that he's terrible at debates, and I don't know how anyone could watch this and sort of leave still thinking that he would be the best person to take on Trump. I think that Trump would eviscerate him on the stage of debates.
Mm-hmm. So I guess let's go to the guy who talked the third longest, Buttigieg. Is that how you say it?
I think it's like Buddha Judge or something like that.
Judge. Okay.
I don't know
But-
how to
We're
pronounce
talking
it.
about Pete. I think that's just what his thing says is Pete.
I'll just call him Pete
Yeah, the mayor from South Bend.
because he knows that no one can pronounce his last name.
Yeah.
Okay. But about him, what are your impressions of him? I didn't think that he would be like one of the main players on the stage, but from this, it looks like he got a lot of the spotlight put on him.
Yeah, so he's also been sort of falling behind in the polls, but I think he had like a really good showing, honestly. Um, there was one big like sort of mess up I think on his part. Like his hometown, what is it, South Bend or whatever?
Yeah,
They've been having like really bad issues with like relations between the black community and the police there. They had not too long ago they had a very popular like head of police, like a black head of police, get fired over something. I forgot what the issue was, but people were pissed about it. I think it had to do with the mayor, or it had to do with like the head of the police. They got like tapes of like officers who were using like racial slurs, and then somehow like people decided that the way the tapes were like taken was like bad or something, so they ended up firing this dude. But anyways, recently they had a shooting there where some cops like shot some black person. Um, I don't know all the details around that, but that's obviously like really horrible for him being up here. It's really horrible timing for him, and
yeah. Allegations that the police chief had improperly recorded phone calls made by his white subordinates who were said to have used racist language about him. Recordings have never been publicly released and remain tied up in the legal battle.
Yeah, that was fishy to me. But anyways,
I
yes.
didn't know he was that young. He's only 37. He just made the age limit, age requirement.
Yeah, I mean, he's young, he's a good speaker, he's gay, so all good things probably, I guess, for a presidential candidate.
Mm.
But it's like when he was asked about like these issues going on in his town, he like instead of like coming up with some way to like try to divert the issue or like coming up with like a reason why things were bad, he was just like, well, I couldn't get it done, like I messed up. And I mean, some people might respect that, and like I guess it is respectable, but I think it's also sort of just bad optics, you know.
So, out of the rest of the lineup of candidates, did anyone else like stand out to you? I know that feels like Sanders. He's not like in the headlines or anything really that I've like noticed because he's more in the background than the foreground at this point. But any of the other ones that remain that you think did well?
I have to give a shout out to the star child Williamson.
Williamson?
He was obviously like high on shrooms the entire debate. Yeah, that's it.
That's pretty much it, huh? Okay. Robert, do you have anything you want to add?
I don't like debates.
You don't like debates?
No.
Why is that?
They're hard for me to watch, and I often feel that the person who won the debate didn't actually do anything that better. I don't know.
I think it's really important to see how these people sort of react under pressure, you know?
Yeah.
Because to me, Biden looked terrible. It's like I would not want him representing our country when Putin's like, really like trying to put the pressure on him. I would not feel comfortable with that. But then someone like Harris, who seemed very confident and like pretty aggressive, I mean, I'd feel more comfortable with like Harris, like trying to.
Speaking of that, wasn't there a thing recently that Trump said it's none of the public's business what he says to Putin or something like that?
Yeah, Trump said
that. But yeah. So, I guess with that, let's go ahead and wrap Thursday with I guess only Edward's top 3.
For Thursday specifically, my top 3 would probably be. I'm actually going to put Harris at the top. Then I'd probably put Buttigieg, Pete, whatever you say his name. Then after that, I'd probably put Bernie, I guess. Yeah.
I see.
I think Bernie's facing a real issue of a lot of these other candidates have sort of cannibalized his talking points, so he's no longer like sort of the French candidate with his revolutionary ideas, because it seems like all of them sort of want his main ideas of like Medicare for all and stuff. So he has to figure something out, but yeah, like to me right now it looks like Warren is essentially a better version of Bernie, because she comes in with like more policy focused. You're like, here are like my progressive ideas, but they're actually like more developed.
Are any of them actually going to forgive my student loans?
Well, wasn't Warren the one saying that she would get rid of student loans?
Yes,
she was. Yeah.
In the future, I'm concerned about my ones that I already have.
What? No, I think she was going to take.
I think she's getting rid of like current like people who have loans.
Yeah, I don't think she's doing anything for the future right now, right? I think it was more about forgiving current ones.
Yes.
Okay.
Does she have your vote because just solely on that?
Probably not, but I like the sound of it.
On Reddit, people are really salty about this plan too, because people are like, "Oh, I took out my student loans and I worked hard to pay them back. Why should like younger people have an easier ride than me?" They're so salty about it.
I think that's like the whole purpose, though, right? Isn't that like the whole purpose of life in society as well? Like,
yeah, it's like
next generation easier and like better.
Yes, exactly. I don't know why these people are so upsetty spaghetti at this.
Why are we like upset with progress?
Yeah.
It's like, sure, you like didn't make the cut, and like it's like unfortunate that you didn't make the cut, but
Yeah.
you know,
Like,
why
chances
should
are-
they have to suffer because you like, oh, we need to like everything needs to be the same. They need to go through the same things we've done, and
Well,
blah,
because
blah,
they'll
blah.
still be paying to pay off these loans.
Well, they
Well,
won't be.
They
so.
won't be.
Well, because just where does the money come from?
In terms of like, I guess like more taxes and proper,
Yeah.
I guess like opportunity costs. But like, it's still, chances are there's some aspect of their life that was easier for them than it was for their previous generation, right? Some type of convenience, some type of like law. Like, there's probably something. It's just how societies go, you know. Like, I hope to God that the people that come after me have an easier time than I did. Like, I don't know. I'm not gonna partake in like any kind of, back in my day, if we like walked uphill both ways to school, if I don't know. It seems out of touch to me.
Back in my day, you had to drive the car.
Like, if things were more difficult for people that come after me, then I would take that as a sign that I failed in like, doing whatever I was trying to do.
Yeah.
Unless
agree.
what you were trying to do.
I don't know. Provide healthcare to people or something.
It occurred to me that our healthcare problem is the Nazis' fault.
Because
So the reason healthcare is tied to jobs is because during World War II there was a freeze on raises or whatever. So the way you would get people to come to your company was through healthcare and other benefits.
all right. So I guess in terms of the final cut, right? Combining these two debates together, give me your top 3 for your performance.
Okay.
Let me guess though. Let me guess yours. I don't have because I haven't watched Thursdays that much, so I
Yeah.
will guess your top 3 as like my contribution to this.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I guess I'm the
Or-
only one that can give a ranking, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's why. Robert, do you want to join in on this prediction with me
Of who he thinks was best?
of who we think Edward is going to say is the best?
I'm
I'm gonna go down and put Warren as number 1,
Yeah, definitely her.
Harris as number 2,
Seems reasonable.
and
Ooh.
I'm gonna say Edward's gonna say Booker number 3.
Sure.
Wait, you can't go along with me. What
The
the-
Steelers.
I'm just going along with you. Seeing if I have anything different. Those were the top 2, and I don't know who else would be third.
Surely you should like mix them up so that like, maybe if Jack's slightly wrong, then you'd be correct.
Well, there's like Sanders.
Okay, instead of Booker, say Bernie, whatever.
So for number 1, I actually had Harris.
Oh shit, we already.
I think that she really brought the stage presence. She has the biggest headlines on like completely destroying Biden, and yeah, I mean, she really surprised me. She was very confident up there. She was sort of falling behind in the polls as well, so this is a really important moment for her. And yeah, out of all of them, I think she looks like to me the best debater, which makes sense because she was like the judge or whatever, right? It makes sense that she'd be good at this type of stuff. Next, I put Warren, of course. She also has a very, very good performance. She had plenty of stage presence. She brought policies. She had good anecdotes. She was a good speaker, good communicator, good stuff. I'd like put them really close though. So yeah, they're like neck and neck, I think. But I think I just have to give a slight edge to Harris. Number 3, I actually have Buttigieg. I think he was giving. I thought on the Thursday one, he was sort of consistent. He gave good answers. I wouldn't want him as an actual candidate, but for just pure debate performance, I thought he did pretty good. Yeah.
All right. Then again, I don't know why I chose Booker in like hindsight, right? Because you put Julian Castro as number 2, right?
Castro is 3 for that day. I'd be
Okay.
able to look her higher than Castro.
Okay. I thought I messed that up for a second there.
I have Booker on 4.
You have Booker on 4?
Yeah, and Bernie on 5.
Yeah. So I think next time though for the July one, I'm gonna take more notes. I'm actually gonna watch both of the debates, so it's not just Edward here saying his opinion, so we can actually like talk about it more and then have our rankings. To expect that from me. But any closing thoughts before?
I would just like to say that in terms of who I think I want to like win the nomination and ideally obviously win the presidency. Right now I'm still in the Bernie camp. He's my boy. He's always been my boy since 2016. And yeah, but so Bernie for me is still number 1, but I'd be pretty quick to switch camps to Warren if it looked like that was going to be the better horse to bet on, so to speak. Yeah, those are like my top 2. After that, it would be tough for me to decide, I think.
Robert, do you have any like indication on who would be your preferred?
Nah, I have people I don't like and people I don't like more, but that's just politics for me.
Then who do you not like?
Most of them, but I'll just go with the quid pro quo of get rid of my dad and sure.
Okay.
So vote for Warren. Nice.
I guess. She's in a way she's paying me to vote for her.
I thought it was Andrew Yang, but
Okay, well, I obviously am gonna say Warren first, but I wouldn't mind if, like, given her performance, I wouldn't mind if Harris got it as well.
okay. Yeah, I'm suspicious on Harris on policy issues. I know that some of like the criminal justice when she was sort of in charge, it would seem to be kind of like harsh, especially towards black males, and
That's surprising.
yeah, and she had like an issue where she was arresting parents for like their kids' truancy or whatever, which sort of was like a big controversy. So there's like more stuff. Like I'm more willing to like investigate her issues more thoroughly after this. So I guess that's a big win for her. But yeah, we'll see.
I personally think that Harris would be better on the international stage than Warren will be.
Yeah, I would agree with that. She's a lot more demanding, I think, Harris. I think she had...
Yeah, because I'm imagining like Warren sitting next to like Putin and like all the other powerful leaders, like maybe like Kim Jong-un eventually. And I feel like Harris just is more imposing and like she's more of an Angela Merkel than Warren is.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that she has the experience being the... I don't want to keep saying... She was a judge, right? Or was she like something else?
You don't want to say wrong information.
She was involved in like the court system.
Lawyer, politician.
She like a prosecutor. I think she was like a DA.
Let me do a quick search. District Attorney of San Francisco, Attorney General of California, were her big 2.
Okay. Okay. Anyways, yeah, she definitely has the experience, sort of having to have that, big presence.
So I guess with that should wrap up the podcast for today. I'm sure we'll be following more of the Democratic candidates' campaign trail in the future, so we'll probably have more podcast topics regarding that as time goes on up until the election, so look out for that. But go ahead.
When do third-party candidates start doing stuff?
I'm not sure. Third party, isn't Bernie a third party technically?
Technically, but
sort of.
He runs as independent, but he's like a Democrat, basically.
Yeah. If you're debating and campaigning with the Democrats, you're practically a Democrat.
It seems like the difference is pretty trivial. It seems like he's essentially part of the DNC, it seems like, right? He's sort of beholden to them.
All right. So, I guess with that, we'll end it off here, and we'll see you guys for the next podcast.